What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another collection update for you. Been going through all this stuff that I got in Florida, and this only covers C through D, and believe me, I did not stop at the D section and the metal section of literally every record store within driving distance of that hotel. I don't know if they make a 12-step program for compulsive CD collectors, but if they did, I'm not going because I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I found a lot of cool stuff once again. And this is not all metal too. There's definitely some surprises in there. Well, I mean, if you've been following the channel for a while, in terms of my love of, like, you know, interesting stuff outside of metal, maybe not too surprising, but they're in there nonetheless. So, enough chit chat. Let's get into it. Carnal Savagery, Fiendish. This is the second album from this Swedish death metal act. Formed pretty much from the ashes of another band that I covered in another collection update, Divine Eve, which were a melodic death metal act, and they just went full tilt all the way to fucking Stockholm and got down to worshiping all the things that I love about HM2 death metal, Dismember, Bloodbath, Entombed, and this is a snarling beast of a fucking album. The production is heavier than hell, the guitars absolutely fucking snarl. I can definitely say, at least in comparison to Divine Eve or Divine Souls, yeah, Divine Souls, I think that was it. Apparently not that memorable, but they are better at HM2 death metal than they are at melodic death metal. This album is vicious from front to back. Very meat and potatoes, very straightforward HM2 death metal, but I don't know, the intensity kind of makes it just rise above just a little bit. Like, it's not like, you know, just kind of bare bones, like, yeah, I've definitely heard all this before. And you have, but played with a lot of ferocity, and I think that really matters. A lot more groove than I was expected. I expected something a little bit more fast-paced, but you get songs like Embalmed Corpses and In Death I Thrive that really fucking lay on the groove, and there's some big, nasty hooks. I guess the choruses are a little, you know, basic, like it's essentially just repeating the song title, but the riffs are what matters, and holy shit, this fucking album has them. They have at least 2 other albums, I believe. I definitely want to hunt them down because I really fucking dug this. So yeah, if you are a giant HM2 slut, much like myself, or just a fan, you don't have to be a slut, but I won't judge you if you actually do identify as a slut for HM2, because I'm with you. Definitely check this out. It's a fucking beast of an album, and again, if you love HM2 stuff, you'll probably fucking dig it. Check it out. Alright, we got a split here between Cephalic Carnage and Anal Blast, or rather a Versus. This is essentially 2, I guess, goofy EPs put together. We have on Cephalic Carnage's side Perversion and the Guilt After, and on Anal Blast's side, version 5. Obese. There's a lot of just goofy, ridiculous shit in here, and you can definitely tell that there's a lot of odds and ends, but there's some killer fucking songs on here. I would say humor and kind of gross out stuff is kind of the main thing on here. The opening track on Cephalic Carnage's side is Live at Your Mom's House, which sounds like some goofy shit we would say. But when you get down to songs like Exhumed Remains, I mean, it's Cephalic Carnage. These guys are fucking incredible, like, technical death grind, and they are flat out showing it off on here. And those sludgy guitars on the title track on this side, Perversion and the Guilt After, and all the extra dynamics they throw in there too kind of shows off their more serious songwriting side. But I mean, you got a song called Phantom Farter, and they spelled farter with a PH, which I think is just goofy too, but there's actually farts in the song because there's farts in the song. You get samples of Elmo on here, you get Stepped in Cowshit Blues, which, I mean, I suppose I can sympathize with. I live in Ohio. And who could forget a song title like Ocular Penile Receptacle? I think that's the ballad on here. Their side is absolutely awesome. And honestly, this was my first exposure to Anal Blast, which, holy shit, context is very important when bringing up fucking death grind bands, I guess. Definitely more straightforward than Cephalic Carnage. Like, it doesn't have all the weird transitions that Cephalic Carnage is known for. It's straightforward, very heavy, and man, song titles are, well, a little bit more like brutal in here, but also still, you know, pretty fucked up. I particularly like the song Clottage Cheese, which that is one hell of a fucking song title, but it's kind of hard to beat High on Cunt Blood and Beer Bong Anima, and the absolutely memorable love song Come Shitting Whore. It really tugs at the heartstrings. It's a ridiculous listen, and I have to give them credit on the sample before Clottage Cheese. They took that memorable checkout line scene from Me, Myself, and Irene, got some extra cheese in that taco. The whole PA bit, which is one of my favorite bits in that entire movie. It's just ridiculous, but it's fast, it's aggressive, and actually it's pretty solid. Again, I never really jammed Anal Blast. The only thing I knew about them was Paul Gray was actually a member of the band at one point, and well, they pretty much went defunct after their frontman died, which, you know, that sucks too. Unfortunately, a lot of tragedy associated with this act. But as a first impression from Anal Blast, this is pretty interesting. I would check out more. But yeah, overall, this split is pretty fucking entertaining, to say the least. Like, in terms of like actual songs, like there's only a few that I would snag from each, but overall, I dug the whole listen through. It's 33 songs in maybe just 30 minutes, so that's pretty grind as fuck. But definitely a very entertaining release, to say the least. I would check this one out if you can find it. Both sides are fucking awesome in this, and yeah, it's just good hearing some Cephalic Carnage again. God, those guys need a new fucking album already. Anyway, check this one out. It's just fucking ridiculous, and if that's what you're looking for, then it's right here. All right, we got a pair here from The Cars. We have Candio and we have Shake It Up. This is their second album. This is their third album. I love The Cars. I pretty much gushed as much as I possibly could, at least in a short form, when I got the first album in the collection update. So I'm back to gush once again. One of my favorite new wave bands ever. It's like pretty much between them and the Talking Heads, and I'm gonna start getting more of their albums. I looked for Panorama just so I could have, like, you know, the one in between there, but I couldn't find it. But I did find these reissues, and these are really solid reissues. I absolutely love Candio. It's not quite as good as the debut, but few things are. Like, that's one of my favorite albums in the fucking world. But this was a worthy follow-up. The hooks are great. The songwriting is absolutely fantastic. I think they kind of just expanded the sound, tried to get bigger, and for the most part, it really works. Like, there's some absolutely killer tracks. Of course, Let's Go is absolutely amazing. The title track is one of my favorites on here. Got a lot on my head. Absolutely amazing. Dangerous Type. Great album. This is definitely still, like, kind of transitioning to the bigger 80s sound, though this one came out in 79, but you could hear that kind of coming. But I really like the fact that it was still very organic, kind of 70s production. Like, they still sounded like a band jamming in a room. Now, Shake It Up was definitely the hard push to the 80s sound. I believe this was all a drum machine, so you get those big 80s canned drums, and overall, it's a good album, though definitely not my favorite. Of course, Shake It Up, great fucking song. The opening track, Since You're Gone, big hit too. I mean, The Cars wrote a fuck ton of hits. But overall, like, I think the more lavish, polished production versus, you know, the earlier stuff where I really fell in love with them, I didn't like it as much. It's simply what you would call a transitional album. Like, you can just kind of hear them just expanding their sound, just getting bigger. And, you know, overall, I think it's a really good album. I think Maybe Baby might be the big hidden gem on this album. I absolutely love that with the tribal percussion that's all over it. But yeah, overall, both of these are fucking excellent. Again, it's not metal, but I don't care. I love the fucking Cars, and I wanted to get more of them, so I will probably get the other two that I'm missing, even though I know the last one wasn't that great, and I don't know about the new Cars one. I did not jam that one when it came out. Maybe I should just give it a chance, but yeah, classic Cars, fucking rules. Candio, I think, is the better one here, but Shake It Up's still really good. But either way, check them both out because the Cars were fucking amazing. All right, we got another pair here from something very different than the Cars. We have Centinex. We have a reissue / compilation of their third EP and their fourth album, Bloodhunt / Reborn Through Flames. And we have their 2002 album, Diabolical Desolation. Now, I've been trying to round out my collection of Centinex stuff. I really like their early work, and again, this is a band that kind of like jumped all over the death metal map. They stayed death metal the entire time, but it was, you know, starting off as like Swedish death metal, then they started getting more towards melodic death metal, and then they kind of started sounding more like US death metal. So they're kind of all over the place just in terms of their sound, and it kind of depends on release to release how well they did it. Now, this reissue is pretty badass, though I have to say the production on the Bloodhunt EP might be too much. There's so much gain and sizzle to that HM2 tone that, man, it almost comes across as static. I think the songs are great. Like, it's flat out everything I love about Swedish death metal, but holy fuck, man, those things are loud. Lots of thrashy riffs. There's a little bit of like a blackened feel to the song For Centuries Untold. Really dug that. But yeah, the EP part was pretty good, but Reborn Through Flames, fucking excellent. I really dug that one. Production's a little bit better. I mean, the guitars are still fucking, you know, extra loud, but it is HM2. I feel like I shouldn't bitch that much. but they had them at a suitable level in the mix, at least on that one, and the snarl was kind of, you know, kept down just a bit to where it was actually listenable, and that made this way more listenable. Very catchy songs. Some of it does start to border on melodeath, but it's not cheesy. They're not trying to squeeze in like clean vocals or anything like that. They're just, you know, writing some catchier, more hooky riffs, and overall the effect is good because they still keep the brutality intact, so it keeps a nice balance. I think the vocals on here are really fucking good too. He's just got a good mid-range snarl to it. The song Molested is an absolute thrashy banger, and speaking of thrash, they actually do a cover of Creators Under the Guillotine, which they absolutely fucking own it. Now this one, again, kind of that balance between Stockholm and Gothenburg. I don't know if it's, you know, Stockholm in the streets and Gothenburg in the sheets, or it might be vice versa. I don't know. Whether it's sheets or streets, it works pretty fucking well here. They do pepper in some keyboards, like the production's a little bit bigger, but overall it's another fast-paced, hooky, fucking snarling Centinex album. There's some really good standouts on here too. On Violent Soul has this really cool tapping intro, and kind of echoes with the whole like good balance between melodeath and Swedish death metal. Like you can have all the intensity but still have some great melodic hooks, and you know, I like melodeath. It's not a bad thing to sort of inject that in this, because A, it kind of made this stand out from, you know, all the stuff that you would hear associated with like Dismember and Entombed, Bloodbath. And it didn't sound like an In Flames or Hypocrisy like knockoff. Like it didn't sound like the bulk of stuff that was just getting, you know, thrown out that sounded a lot like In Flames, Hypocrisy, At the Gates, Soilwork. Like all those bands became pretty popular during that era. And this band at least found a good way to sort of balance it out. Overall, I dug both. Again, like some production issues with this, and this is a remaster. I don't know if maybe they just fucked up the remaster, but both are really good. If you like Swedish death metal and you like melody, like a little bit of melodeath mix in there, definitely recommend these two. Again, Centinex's discography is a little spotty. I still haven't completed it, but I think I'm just going to eventually complete it because I have most of it now. But yeah, check these both out. Both really solid. The Chasm, Awaiting the Day of Liberation demo. This is the 1993 demo from Chicago underground death metal legends, The Chasm. I've become a huge fan of that band ever since seeing them at Maryland Death Fest 2019. I literally went to see them on a whim there because we weren't sure who we were going to see next, and I knew nothing about them, and I left a fucking giant fan, and it's kind of hard finding their stuff. So when I saw this in a bin at one of the record stores, I had to snag this because, again, trying to find their stuff in CD stores can be difficult. Now, this is definitely very raw. It is a 90s demo, but holy shit, the songwriting. Daniel Corchado is a hell of a songwriter. These are meticulously constructed. Definitely more of a technical sort of flair to them. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here that reminds me of early Morbid Angel, but also like kind of like Gateways to Annihilation era Morbid Angel. There's a lot of like doominess and just like kind of creepy evil vibes to it. The song structure is wild. There's clean passages. There's even Middle Eastern melodies. And this is only 4 tracks too. And throughout, the guitar work is fucking fantastic. Only gripe though is track 3, Reality / Descend into the Chasm 1. Alright, the whole first half of it, which I assume is Reality, is this kind of big intro atmospheric track. Like there's a lot of different tracked vocals. They're all drenched in reverb. They all sound like they're moaning and groaning and just like this weird ambiance to it. It feels like a very long intro. Now the back half picks up, but that front half was kind of just weird to get through because it just felt like it was kind of going nowhere, which sucks because the first 2 tracks absolutely fucking ripped. But it does close strong with The Gardens of the Blind, which is fantastic. I think it's probably one of my favorite tracks on here. But yeah, this was essentially the beginnings of this band that I see get a fuck ton of love in the underground, and I need more of their shit because this band is absolutely fantastic. If you have never heard of The Chasm, I don't know if this is like necessarily the best place to start, but definitely find yourself some stuff by The Chasm because it is absolutely fantastic. Like progressive death metal, maybe like progressive death thrash. I don't know, they do a lot of shit, and from what I've listened to, most of it is absolutely amazing. So yeah, definitely check this out and just check out The Chasm because they're fucking amazing. That should be enough of a reason. Check it out. Christian Mistress, To Your Death. This is the 3rd and sadly final album from this Portland, Oregon-based heavy metal act. I mean, there was like a little bit of doom metal to their sound too, but overall, classic heavy metal, female fronted with amazing vocals, and again, only 3 albums. I feel like this band, their career kind of got cut short, and since there's only 3 albums, I'm thinking maybe like this could be a cool retro review one, because this band was awesome. Giant heavy metal riffs, great harmonies. The songwriting here is absolutely fantastic. Like, you definitely get a lot of like early Judas Priest, and I would definitely say like some early Maiden in there, but also like early Scorpions too. The riffs on here are so goddamn good, and her vocals, they're very sultry and very raspy. I absolutely love her delivery. The album before this, I actually featured on an underrated albums video a while ago for heavy metal, and that album I think is possibly still their best, though this is absolutely fantastic as well. Like, every song is just hooky as hell. Now, this loses a bit of the doomy vibe from Possession, but you get like classic rock swagger with the song Walking Around. The song Eclipse has this great heavy metal gallop to it, and the last track is an absolutely awesome instrumental, which when I was looking this up on Archives, apparently there's supposed to be 9 tracks in here, but there's only 8. It says there's 9 on the CD, but there are only 8 tracks in here. I can't really complain, because I don't know if that extra track would have been good or bad, because I never heard it, but this edition is absolutely fantastic, and I loved every track in it, so I can't complain, because all 8 of the tracks in here were good. Love the production too, very organic sound. It is sad that there are not more albums by this band, because with each album I feel like they were getting better. I mean, I still think Possession might be my favorite, but that is not to say this is not absolutely fantastic. If you have never jammed Christian Mistress, well, there's only 3 albums, and I recommend all 3 of them. Hell, I might bring up the first one in another underrated video just because I want to talk about them, or just do a full-on retro review. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but I definitely want to talk about this band a little bit more in depth. They're fantastic. Strongly recommend it. Coffinrot, Retribution Divine. This is the debut album from this Minnesota-based death metal act that already changed their name. You can find this same album under the name Coffin Rights now, because they changed their name because apparently there were other Coffinrots. I know there are, because I actually own albums by at least one of them. And, well, there's too many fucking Coffin bands. I'm gonna be flat out honest, it's getting confusing. It's getting to the point where, like, Coffin is maybe even more prevalent than the word death in death metal. Just calm the fuck down on the Coffins and band names for, like, a year. Like, that's all we need to sort of reset it, and then we can get back to the Coffin band names, but there's too many. Anyway, this is some pretty solid death metal, very thrashy. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff in here that reminds me of early Black Dahlia Murder, except with like more like thrashy Floridian death metal to it, like a little bit more Deicide, or like a band like Vader would be a good comparison, even though they're not Floridian, but thrashy is definitely accurate there. I have to say it kind of starts oddly, because there's like a brief melodic intro and then it just explodes. Like, there's not really like a build up into it, it just kind of goes. But I have to say, throughout the entire album, this is a really solid listen. Again, fast, thrashy. The tone definitely has that giant thrash crunch, but you also get like some slammy riffs on Nature of the Beast, which is good because a lot of this is very fast, but it was cool they broke it up a little bit. Like songs like Sentence to Serve, definitely a bigger, groovier monster with some just disgusting riffs on it. And I absolutely love the sludgier breakdown on Bard from the Realms of Death Eternal. It's a good fucking song title too. Really dug this one. Again, you don't have to find this one under Coffinrot, you can find this under Coffin Rights. Regardless of the name, and it won't matter because the font's the same, so if you recognize this album cover and it just says something different, it'll be in the same font anyway. It's the same band. It's the same fucking band. Either way, awesome album. I really dig this. I definitely want to check out more by them. And again, if you love your death metal thrashy with some big fucking hooks, definitely check this out. Coffins. See? More Coffins. The Other Side of Blasphemy. This is the second album from this Japanese death doom death metal act. At MDF this year, if I can, I definitely want to see him because this band is absolutely awesome. This is sludgy, dirty, filthy, other disgusting adjectives, worship of Autopsy, but with like big incantation death doom breakdowns, and I absolutely love this band's sound. They check off pretty much everything I like about death doom, just especially like the dirtier style of death doom. The vocals are just over the top and gurgled and sound evil and almost sort of puked forth, like kind of that Chris Reifert and John McEntee sort of thing. The riffs are bleak, oppressive, and doomy, and about as fast as it gets is a good fucking D beat, which I'm perfectly fine with. The production is flat out perfect for what they're going for. It's murky, it's filthy, it sounds like it was recorded inside of a damp cave, and honestly, I could not imagine them with like really clean production at all. In fact, I think they would ruin it. And holy shit, the Death Doom breakdowns are so fucking heavy. I've been getting into this band a lot within the past couple of years, and honestly, might have found my favorite one so far. I haven't listened to all their full lengths, but Jesus, this album, front to back, just delivers on everything I love about Death Doom. It is such a dirty, nasty listen, and I really want to see this band live now. Like, I'm gonna have to find a way to schedule amongst all the other bands that are there. Good fucking luck with that. But yeah, I really want to see this band. I'm at least gonna try to get a shirt of theirs, and hopefully maybe some of the albums I'm missing, but this is absolutely fantastic. If you have not jammed Coffins, this would be a brilliant place to start, but honestly, from all I've listened to, I really haven't heard a bad album of theirs. Their last album on Relapse was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, definitely check this out. It is a fucking monster of an album, and if you love Death Doom, this right here, get it. It's fucking sweet. Contrarian Polemic, or Polemic, I don't know. Either way, this is the debut album from this Rochester, New York-based progressive metal, or progressive death metal / tech death band. And I picked this one up mainly because I recognize the name because Jam and John covered this in a What's John Jammin' forever ago, which we're hopefully going to get that one rolling again. Again, his schedule has been rough, him working third shift, so it's kind of tough even getting him over here for reviews too, just because he's been working a ton of days, especially before MDF. Anyway, we definitely want to bring that segment back, but anyway, back to this. This is very much latched on to a lot of stuff that I would see as like very classic tech death or progressive death metal, like lots of like later gore guts, later death, atheist, even some cynic, but there's also some brutal death metal elements, namely in the vocals. The vocals on here are very deep, like they're all kind of a very just low gurgle, and honestly, it doesn't necessarily always match up with the band's style, like, because they're doing a lot of, like, jazz fusion stuff and very just, like, off-kilter, proggy stuff in there. And I just feel like it needs a little bit more than just uniformly deep vocals. Now, to be fair, I know they have other albums, I just haven't got around to listen to them, and I know John spoke very highly of the last one, so I'm going to have to get around to it because musically I was very impressed with this. While the songs do occasionally like meander a little bit and get very spacey and, you know, kind of get off the path, at least for me, musically it's very impressive. And they do get a little bit more straightforward on songs like Predestined, where it just kind of just goes to the throat and delivers some nasty riffs. So this album is pretty well balanced. And believe me, I was not shocked in the least when I saw that there was a death cover on here. They do a cover of Nothing Is Everything off of Individual Thought Patterns, and honestly, they nail it. And what really drove me nuts in there is the dude's vocals changed for that one. And honestly, his delivery was really good. Like, it was definitely up a little bit more, but at the same time, I was like, why didn't he kind of like pivot off of that, like on the album? Like, instead of doing all deep vocals, bring in that one every now and then just to sort of break it up. Anyway, minor gripe. Overall, solid debut, very sci-fi themed, and I mean, if you like technical death metal, you like progressive death metal, and atheist, later death, all that shit, definitely check this band out. They got a lot more releases, and I'm gonna have to dive into them a little bit more, but yeah, check it out, it's good stuff. Corpus Mortal with Lewd Demeanor, which is pretty much how I approach everything. This is the debut album from this Danish death metal band. I actually brought up at least one of their albums in an underrated death metal album, and I think another one in a collection update, so 3 for 3, because this is the only album I was missing. They only have 3 full lengths. I believe they're still active, but they just haven't put out anything in a while, which is sad because this band's awesome. Another very Floridian, very thrashy death metal act. The opening tracks pretty much just take off with blast beats. Again, lots of like Vader in there too, and riffy as hell. Nice guttural vocals, very similar to, you know, Deicide, Monstrosity, but definitely some nods to Morbid Angel, especially the tremolo riffs that are all over Force-Fed Obedience. But holy shit, the breakdown of that song is fantastic. Now, honestly, like, the opening of this album stays very fast, very fucking in your face, but honestly, later on this album, they really seem to open up more in terms of the melody department. Like, there's more dissonant melodies. There's some very catchy songs that I was kind of caught off guard by. The song Lucid Dreaming is flat out catchy. Like, it has, you know, dissonant melodies that are actually kind of tuneful, and it really creates some interesting hooks that, again, I wasn't expecting, because to that point, it was really just kind of full throttle and in your face. And to hear something like that tuneful on an album that is just actually steeped in brutality was kind of a cool little thing there. The whole back half of this album I just think was a lot stronger and more thought out, and man, did they not sacrifice any bit of fucking brutality trying to think things out and make it more meticulous. Succumb to the Superior, Jesus man, the fucking triplet chugs and that will fucking cave in your head. Absolutely awesome release. I am glad I have all three now because, well, I mean, 3 albums is almost good for a retro review. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff in here I kind of want to do like retro reviews for, just because there's a lot of cool underground stuff that didn't really get a chance to shine. But this band is still around, so I don't know, maybe they'll see this and say, hey, you know, we haven't put out an album in a while. Let's fucking do that. That's a little too optimistic, I think, on my part, but either way, absolutely love this album, and I love their other 2. If you have not checked out this band, I strongly recommend it. If you just like death metal, I'm pretty sure you will dig this band. So yeah, check them out. All right, we got a pair here from Cripple Bastards. This is their second album, Misantropo, Senso, Unico. And this is an album of covers of theirs called Frammenti di Vita. I don't speak Italian, and that is literally almost every track on here, so this is gonna be tough, at least telling you track names. But this is an Italian-based grindcore. I guess mincecore was a term I've heard thrown around. I know that's like kind of a thing with like bands like Groin Churn and a Gothicles or Gathicles, however you say that band's name. I don't necessarily know what mincecore is. It kind of sounds like grindcore to me, so we'll just call it grindcore. But this is honestly one of my favorite grindcore bands that I've discovered in the last few years. They are absolutely fucking feral. They're just fucking nuts. And this album definitely embodies this. Fast as hell, songs are short, they're violent as hell. I like that there is a lot of punk influence on here. Like, this is not just like all very metallic grindcore. This is very punky, and Jesus, the fucking vocalists, because I think all the members contribute vocals. Like, I don't think they have like a straight up front man on here. They all sound like they're losing their goddamn mind. And, well, it's all in Italian, so I don't necessarily know what they're losing their mind about. I'd have to look up the translations. That just seems like a lot of work, so I didn't. But it's grindcore anyway, and like, you know, vocals are generally indecipherable screams for the most part, so I didn't care. I just wanted some nonstop, like, bulldozing grindcore, and I got it. This album is fucking awesome. Now, this is the 2013 reissue, and it does have, like, some extra stuff in here. I believe it's the last track, Separati del Contagio? Sure. Very strange track. It is unlike anything on here. It's kind of a, like, a dancey song, I guess. Like, there's synths. It has, like, a more of a disco beat to it, and really caught me off guard. It's good, it's just very weird. But the strangest one is the song 94 Times Flashback di Massacro, or Massacro, whatever it is. That is 94 micro songs, which micro songs I guess are a thing. I thought grindcore were micro songs, but yeah, these are like 5 to 10 second songs about who the fuck knows what. But yeah, it's a compilation of 94 songs, and I think the track is maybe 7 minutes. So yeah, that's how fucking grind they are. That's a pretty fucking grind thing to do. But yeah, absolutely love this one. Now this one is a covers album, and I didn't know that picking up. I probably should have just looked in the back, because yeah, it's pretty telling that it's a covers album. But at the same time, I didn't really care, because I was getting some more Cripple Bastards. And they covered more specifically like all Italian bands. So you have Italian thrash bands, death metal bands, grindcore bands, punk bands, and I don't know many of them. Like, actually, the only ones that I really knew on here were Necrodeath and Raw Power, and they do a good job on those covers. I mean, I'm really not even sure if I know those songs specifically, but I liked all the songs, so I can't really tell you if they did them better or worse than the original, because I have no fucking clue what most of the originals sound like, but I can tell you that this was a very entertaining album. I can also tell you I really liked the thrash covers. Like, these guys actually showed off a little bit more variety than I knew they had on here, just in terms of, you know, what I know about their discography. It was really cool hearing them take like a grind approach or a non-grind approach to some of these songs. Like, some of these are a little bit more straightforward, I would assume, but some of them, they just grind them the fuck out. But yeah, Cripple Bastards, fucking awesome grindcore. If you've never checked out any of their albums, check out, I would say, literally any of theirs. I really like their debut album, Your License Check, too. I think that one's really good, but just find some Cripple Bastards. If you're a grind fucking freak like I am, you'll love it. It's just fucking nuts. Check it out. Cult of Luna, The Beyond. This is the second album from the Swedish post-metal / sludge metal band. I've been a huge fan of these guys, but I'm still missing a lot of their earlier stuff, especially their first three. Now I got the second one, so 2 more to go. But yeah, I've brought up Cult of Luna countless fucking times on this channel. I absolutely love this band, and hearing their early stuff, man, it was possibly even more heavy back then. Like, there's still loads of atmosphere, and it's very lush. I mean, they have like keyboards, layered guitars, extra percussion. This band is really good at layering sound. I mean, they're pretty much students of Neurosis, and those guys are really good at layering sound too. Now, versus their more recent material, this is definitely more sludgy. In fact, the guitars are absolutely massive on here. Like, they haven't lost anything in terms of like the heaviness of the guitars, but they sound different. There's more like about that dissonant sort of atmosphere to them. Like, these are thicker and chunkier, but they still have that atmosphere to them. And I will say that this one is definitely a bit riffier, like in between all these big empty spaces and long song building, because I mean, this is post-metal, so, you know, deconstructing and constructing and building stuff up, you know, the tension building, that's a big part of it. But there are some giant riffs, especially the song Genesis. Holy shit, that song's fucking heavy. Now, this is a long album because it's a Cult of Luna album, it's post-metal. They're always fucking long, but there's a lot of good peaks and valleys in here, and honestly, overall, this does not feel that long. Like, it actually really just kind of draws you in with all the lush soundscapes and just monstrous riffs on it. It's weird. It's very calming, yet absolutely fucking, like, oppressively heavy. I don't know, that's kind of the thing I like about Cult of Luna and kind of post-metal in general. Like, the beginning of the song Circle is actually almost kind of country-ish. Like, there's a slide guitar in there, and it slowly keeps building to just fucking the heaviest shit in the fucking planet. Absolutely loved this album. I mean, in terms of stacking up to the newer material, man, I love that too. I mean, I think it's just fair to say I like just about everything I've heard from this band. But yeah, if you have never jammed Cult of Luna and you're looking for the heavy side of the band, this right here should scratch that itch. If you like the more atmospheric stuff, I strongly recommend the, you know, newer stuff, but honestly, I would say almost all of it's good. But yeah, just check out Cult of Luna. They're fucking amazing. So yeah, check it out. Dan the Machine, self-titled. This came out in 1993. This is the lone full-length from this band that actually featured Chris Poland, formerly of Megadeth. And I want to keep this one relatively short because I kind of want to do a full-on retro review of this because I didn't even know about this album's existence. I was literally just kind of perusing through the bins at one of those record stores, and I looked this one up on my phone and I saw that Chris Poland was in it, and that was my main reason for buying it. His brother was also on it too, and this was something he did after his solo albums, or at least the one that I have. I will say that this is very 90s prog. Like, there's a lot of different elements. Like, there's like kind of 90s alternative metal in it too, but there's definitely a lot of like Dream Theater or like a band like Heaven's Cry in there too. Like, it definitely has a lot of interesting elements, and the playing on here is absolutely fantastic. Again, this is something I want to go into a little bit deeper in terms of a retro review, but this is really good. I really enjoyed this. Vocals are kind of hit or miss for me, but overall, musically, this has some really awesome stuff in it. So yeah, I recommend checking this one out on your own. Of course, I'm going to leave links to all the music down below. But yeah, I definitely want to do like a full-on retro review for this because I think this is a really interesting album. And again, Chris Poland, awesome guitarist. Definitely check this one out. This is a very interesting listen. And again, future retro review more than likely. Check it out. All right, we got a pair here from Dark Funeral. We have their debut album from 1996, Secrets of the Black Arts, and Diabolus Interium, which is their third album. And I forget who said it in the comments when I reviewed their last album that the more blue, purple album covers good, red album cover's bad. Might have been Ben NG. I don't know. Either way, I was going to get some more Dark Funeral because I thought the new one was good and at least got my interest up to actually finally get into this band's discography more. And it's pretty straightforward black metal. This one is definitely the more raw of the two. Like, this is blast beats, tremolos, kind of all my complaints about the new one in terms of like overdoing elements. Like, this is almost all blast beats and almost all tremolos. Very raw production. I mean, it's a little bit better produced than some black metal, but it's still very raw sounding. The vocals are fucking frantic and insane on here. I kind of really like that. A lot of the stuff on here just kind of reminded me a lot of like more melodic Marduk, except maybe mix that with like Sacramentum too, because there's a lot of really good melodies in here. It's very cold, very evil sounding, kind of all the things you want out of black metal. It is a bit formulaic, and I mean, again, they lay on the blast, they lay on the tremolo. Groove is the enemy here, I think. That and Jesus. Blood Frozen does break it up a little bit. It is a little bit slower of a song. I think it should have been more towards the middle of the album, and it's towards the back half. But the song Satanic Blood is probably one of the most boring tracks on here, I have to say. Like, it's the same fucking riff. It's like a little bit over 2 minutes, and it's just kind of boring. But overall, I really like this debut. This was really good. Now, this one, again, you know, the more red or orange album covers I was warned about and told like, oh no, that's kind of like the decline. And honestly, I don't really have a problem with this. I think this is a really good album. There's a little bit more variety. They break it up. There's more groovy sections. And I don't know if like, you know, slowing down is not cult or true, but I think they did it really well in here. And I like the song construction just maybe a little bit more. Like, it's less one-dimensional than this one. But I can definitely see the appeal to more diehard black metal fans for this one because it pretty much apes everything that people love about black metal. This kind of widens the path a little bit. Again, there's more melody on here, more groove. I think the songwriting dynamics are like a little bit better. You still get all the frantic vocals. There's still fucking tons of blast beats and tremolo riffs. So you get all the stuff that you're pretty much accustomed to from this band, except there's just a little bit more variety in here. And honestly, I think it's pretty fucking good. Those more defined hooks kind of made this one a little bit more memorable. Then there's some cheesiness, like Goddess of Sodomy, some extra little like sexy noises in there, and you know, maniacal laughter. And I know maybe the intention was to sound like, oh, this is evil and dark and lustful and sinful. It's like, no, it's maybe just cringy. But either way, I ended up liking both of these for like different reasons. Like, again, this is definitely the more raw, like straightforward black metal that you would probably expect. And this one still has that, but there's a lot more songwriting dynamics, and I kind of like that. So yeah, both of these were pretty good, and I'm going to continue to get more Dark Funeral and check out this band more in depth. But yeah, I can say I recommend both of these. They're both really good. And if you like black metal in general, I'm pretty sure you're going to find something you like on either one of these. So yeah, check them both out. Dead to This World, Sacrifice. This is the first EP and honestly the most recent release from this black and thrash metal band from Norway. And this came out in 2011, so yeah, there's definitely been a lull in terms of releases. Now, I actually covered their full length in an underrated album segment for black and thrash, and I really enjoyed that. And I saw this and I was like, well, fuck, I like the full length. Let's see what the EP's like. And this is really fucking good too. This one feels a little bit more focused on the thrash metal. Like, you still get like some good like black and tremolos and a little bit of the black metal atmosphere on here. In fact, maybe a little bit too much in one spot. But overall, the production and the riffs definitely feel more centered on thrash metal. And honestly, I have no problem with that because the riffs in here are fucking good. It's not all just high paced either. There's some good solid grooves and like slower moments. Death Courageous has some really awesome slower riffs on it. And they do throw on a cover here, The Malefice, which is by a band Pentagram, but not the Pentagram you're thinking. It's a Pentagram from South America that played like black and thrash, and they do a solid job. I have to say the last track, Altar of Mahakali, sure, is probably the most black metal centric song on there. It's longer, it's definitely more cold, it kind of has like a straightforward like death march rhythm to it, and really solid up until the end of it. It's over 8 minutes long, but only about 6 minutes of it is the actual song, and then the last 2 minutes is a long outro with like cold winter winds, and then toward the end you start hearing keys. I guess they left their keyboardist out in the cold. You gotta bring him in, he'll get hypothermia. Did you even give him a fucking sweater? I don't know. But either way, it was just kind of an odd ending, and just kind of, I don't know, like, did they pad out the length of the EP? Either way, though, I can't really complain about much of this, because I thought this was really good. And man, 2011, it's been over a decade. I would love to hear more from this band, because the world needs more awesome black and thrash bands. At least that's my opinion. But yeah, if you have never heard of this band, I would say check out their full length. Check out this EP too. They're both awesome if you love black and thrash. Pretty sure this is going to be a pretty easy sell. So yeah, check it out. Destinity The Inside. This is the 6th album from this French-based, alright, it kind of depends on which area you got into. And they started off as like symphonic black metal, and like maybe blackened death metal, and then they moved in like melodic death metal / death thrash. And this is kind of, I think, the start of the death thrash / melodic death metal era. I actually have 2 of their albums. I did not know they had so many albums. Like, I thought this was probably like much earlier than their 6th album when I got it, and well, I was wrong. This is definitely very close, like the Gothenburg sound, like, you know, a lot of that, you know, early to mid 2000s Gothenburg melodic death metal, but mixed in with some symphonic elements. Like, there's definitely some carryover from their previous style of symphonic black metal or black and death metal, whatever it was. I haven't heard that stuff, so I can't tell you if I think that description's accurate, but there's definitely symphonic elements. And well, man, the symphonic elements are okay. It's the riffs. The riffs are fucking tight. They're very thrashy. There's lots of breakdowns on here. Like, this definitely fits in terms of like what was definitely trending in like 2008 as far as like death metal, melodic death metal, you know, even maybe metalcore, I guess, in a way too. Like, in terms of like the stuff that was really influential. Yeah, this is very much like that. The vocals are kind of just okay in here. Like, the harsh vocals are decent, but it's the clean vocals on here that really don't add much. Like, anytime they try to bring in a clean chorus, it just feels, I don't know, like half-assed. Like, it just doesn't feel like it's gonna make that chorus section, you know, kind of rise above the verses or any part on the song. Like, it's just kind of like, well, we needed a clean chorus. Like, did you? For the most part, I think a harsh chorus would even work in here, because they go into breakdowns really often, and the breakdowns are fucking solid, especially the song Still Remember. That one's got a fucking beast of a breakdown on it. Now, the stuff I have is definitely way more in the melodic death metal / death thrash side, like more comparable, like Hatesphere and The Haunted. So this one is definitely different compared to the ones I have, and I guess I could say this one's kind of a transitional album, because there's still a little bit of their old selves on there versus the new direction. But overall, this wasn't bad. Like, it's a decent release. I like the ones that I have a bit more, just because, well, I've had those for longer and I've been more used to them. But overall, this is a decent release. It's just kind of odd. I kind of want to check out the earlier stuff just to hear what they sound like before this transition. But I mean, if you like mid-2000s melodic death metal, death thrash, and maybe some symphonic elements, I'd say check this one out. It's decent. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest thing, because it's not, but it was still fun to listen to. And yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. Not exactly the most glowing review, I know, but I still recommend checking it out, because I think it's pretty decent. So yeah, check it out. All right, got a pair here from Desolate Shrine. We have their 2012 album, The Sanctum of Human Darkness, and we have their 2015 album, The Heart of the Netherworld. This is a Finnish death metal act that is steeped in all things evil sounding. Holy shit, these are some really dark, atmospheric, dissonant, ugly death metal albums. Now, this is a band like I remember listening to a while ago, and I don't remember what I listened to, but I was like, it's okay. And I decided to take a chance on them, because they had both of these releases, and man, I was missing out. I fucked up, because this is absolutely awesome. This is definitely very like doomy and blackened, oppressive, dark. Like, these are 2 very evil sounding listens, and I absolutely love them. Now, in terms of picking which one I like more, I don't know, it's kind of hard to pick. Sanctum definitely feels more anchored in death metal. The vocals are quite a bit lower in terms of like an overall delivery. Like, they're a little bit more on the black metal side here, or at least like a more mid-range death metal. Here, they get nice and deep, and they actually kind of sound like Ackerfeld back in the glory days. But of course, drenched in reverb, because if it doesn't sound like a demon growling through a subway tunnel, you're not doing atmospheric death metal / black and death metal right. The guitars are a little bit more sizzly and extra chunky on this one. And both do atmosphere well. Like, it builds a creepy, unsettling atmosphere, but they both know how to deliver riffs. I'd say this one maybe a little bit more, again, that little bit more like death metal sound to most of it kind of makes it a little bit more riffy. This one, though, in terms of like a creepy overall listen, man, also really good. Now, this one actually has some songs on here over 10 minutes. In fact, I think there's one on here over 14 minutes. And in terms of like songwriting dynamics, building up a song, like making a long song sound good and not tedious, they do an excellent job. Especially the song We Dawn Anew. Like, the piano intro to that is very somber and very like Paradise Lost-ish, and then when you get into the bulk of the song, it just takes you on a journey through hell. Not really that different from one another, but there's just enough of a difference. Like, I think this one is a little bit more blackened in a way, like at least with the vocals and maybe the production, but this one, man, it's just unbelievably heavy and dark, which is also this one. I don't know, pretty much just find yourself some Desolate Shrine and get it, because this is just really excellent stuff. I should not have slept in this band, and now I am officially after their other releases, because these were both really fucking good. So if you love Finnish death metal, and you like blackened death metal, and you like blackened death doom, and I don't know, if you just like really heavy, dark, oppressive stuff, this is it. Strongly recommend both of them, and I'm definitely going to get more. So yeah, check these out. The Devil's Blood, Come Reap. This is the debut EP from this Dutch occult rock / doom rock band. This band has a very interesting retro sound, and I absolutely love it. Unfortunately, this band is no longer around, which sucks because, man, I fucking love this. This band has such a cool sound. It's steeped in like late 60s, 70s, and even early 80s, like big rock songs with a spooky occult sort of vibe to it. Lots of cool keys. The guitar work in here is absolutely exceptional. The vocals are absolutely amazing. Frida Lamochi and her brother was actually the principal songwriter and guitarist on here, Salim Lamochi. They were an incredible team. Frida still does stuff. She has her new band Molasses, and she was actually on the last Watain album, and she has these haunting, sultry vocals. Absolutely amazing. She has such a unique delivery, and Salim was a fantastic songwriter. This guy knew how to write great classic rock hooks, but kind of doom them up and make them a little bit more spooky and mysterious. Honestly, like, this is one of those bands where you could compare them to Ghost a little bit, at least early Ghost, but they kind of took a way more retro approach and kind of stayed in a very particular sound. Like, they kind of stayed closer to like the 70s, and they stuck with the, you know, more analog sound, because the production here is just fucking awesome. Like, it sounds like a live show, honestly. Like, it sounds so natural and organic. And I know Ghost has definitely moved away from that and gone for the big glitzy 80s production, which, you know, yeah, let them do what they want. This is more along the line of like a band like Uncle Ass and the Deadbeats. Keep that shit analog, keep it natural sounding, and this EP flat out rules, much like everything that this band ever put out. And believe me, I'm probably going to bring them up more. It's just kind of hard to put them in with like the metal bands, because they're really not a metal band, despite how metal this album cover looks. It's more like classic rock oriented. So I'm going to have to find a way to shoehorn them in some way a little bit more, because this band's absolutely amazing. Check out all their stuff. This EP, though, is fantastic. The last track, Voodoo Dust, the big 10-minute jam session, the solos that are all over that are fucking fantastic. I loved every track in here, but I kind of knew I would, because I absolutely love this band. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be bringing them up more in the future. Maybe a retro review, maybe just underrated albums. I don't know. I just think this band needs more love. But yeah, if you have not checked out any of the Devil's Blood, this would not be a bad place to start. But I also recommend literally anything else they put out. So yeah, check this out. Dodecahedron. This is their self-titled debut from 2012. This was a Dutch avant-garde black metal band, actually featured former members of Exvius, which were a wild like jazz fusion prog band. I know that Jammin' John and Shredlord both covered them in a retro review a while ago, and if you haven't checked that one out, check that out just to get a little bit more context about how insanely good these guys were in terms of musician. Now, this is very different than Exvius. This is, well, oh man, a weird listen. The front half of this album is fucking chaos. It is dissonant as hell. just strange songwriting, notes that just don't seem to make any sense, like chord progressions that kind of throw the fucking book out in terms of like, you know, music theory of any kind. It's just dissonant and creepy and unsettling. The vocals are horrific. Like, it just sounds crazy. Like, I'm doing my best not to compare him to Portal, but Portal isn't too far off. But this might actually be closer to a band like Dude, or however the fuck you say that band's name, or Mitochondrion, which, yeah, like that's sort of like weird, dissonant death metal, except this is a little bit more black metal oriented. And honestly, like getting through this was kind of difficult up until the halfway point. For some odd reason, the last 3 tracks, which are all essentially one track just broken up into movements, View from Heverfell? I don't know what that is. Anyway, all of a sudden it just gets more accessible, more proggy, and I mean, it's still fucking crazy. It still sounds horrific when it comes down to the vocals, but somehow the songs kind of gel more. They're not trying to be just strange as hell and like kind of latching on maybe too hard to the avant-garde thing. I was surprised, like my whole mood changed listening to it, because I was like, oh my god, this needs to end, to like, oh wow, I like what they're doing, I want this to continue. So kind of a tale of two halves in here. But this band broke up in 2020. They have one other album, and I don't know, I might get it. I don't know, like the back half of this is really good. Like, it's catchy, like there are really awesome melodies on it, and the songs really come together well, even though they're kind of crazy. But I don't want an entire album of the first half, because no, that's just fucking nuts sounding. But yeah, this was strange, but overall pretty engaging. Like I said, I really like the back half of this. It's just the front half is maybe just too fucking weird. But I don't know, I recommend checking it out, form your own opinions. If you're big into avant-garde weirdness and soundscapes that you think you should hear more in the Hellraiser movies, yeah, no, the front half of this might be for you. And if you like things a little bit more tuneful, maybe it's the back half. I don't know. I'm not you, I'm me. So I'm just going to do my part and recommend this to you. So yeah, check it out. All right, and finally we have Dream Theater. When Dream and Day Unite. This was the only Dream Theater album I was missing, and this is their debut from 1989. And this is the only one without James LaBrie on vocals. This is Charlie Demency. And honestly, I had this like in terms of like a download, like my buddy gave me it, like a whole fucking zip drive way fucking back, and I jammed it and was like, oh, this is good. It's different. I actually thought it was James LaBrie, and I was like, man, he's saying a lot higher, and his phrasing was a lot different back then. But no, it's a totally different singer. And honestly, for a first effort for these guys, this is still really fucking good. Like, you can definitely tell the talent was fucking overwhelming in this band in terms of just the musicianship. It was mostly just the focus in terms of the songwriting. Like, some of it kind of came across as a little clustered, like, we gotta squeeze in all this crazy, you know, shit here, we gotta have a long solo here, and they didn't quite know how to put it together just yet. But most of it is really solid songwriting, though I think it latches more onto, like, let's say, like, Queensryche, Sabotage. It doesn't quite have that token Dream Theater sound outside of Portnoy's fantastic drumming and John Petrucci being John Petrucci. Like, he's always been good, apparently. Petrucci was probably born with a guitar in his hand, let's be honest, which, glad his mother survived that one. But yeah, this was pretty decent. Like, I mean, it's not like the best thing, and clearly they got a lot better. Like, fucking Images and Words and fucking Awake are like masterclass fucking prog metal albums in my mind. But this isn't terrible, and I like this a fuck ton more than The Astonishing, which isn't saying much, but this was a pretty good start. Again, they got a lot better, but that is not to say that this isn't good. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, especially the song Afterlife. I think Afterlife is a really catchy song, and the Ytse jam, YTSE, however you say that jam, that's the lone instrumental in here, and it's absolutely fucking awesome. Charlie's vocals are definitely an acquired taste on here. Like, his phrasing is kind of odd, and he's kind of all over the place, but he ended up leaving, I believe, on his own, and then they got James LaBrie, and I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of James LaBrie either, but I think he suits their sound better. But yeah, pretty solid debut. If you've never checked out early Dream Theater, this, I mean, I would start with Images and Words and Awake and, you know, all that shit. But yeah, this, still really good. So check it out. All right, that knocks out another gigantic stack of music. Pretty sure this one's going to be over an hour, but I hope you guys found a lot of cool stuff in here, and I am going to get right back to work on the next batch, because we might be at the halfway mark of all this shit I bought. I really overdid it. I mean, if you guys watched the stream, yeah, Jeff called me on it. I may have bought too much shit. But I'm going to get through it all. I'm going to give you my opinion on all of it, and I'm going to have fun doing it, because I imagine I bought a lot of cool stuff, because I really liked pretty much everything in here. So yeah, plenty of stuff coming on the channel too. Obviously, you know, Exodus ranking, we're trying to get that together here soon. We want to get that out before we go to MDF, which MDF, can't wait for that shit. And of course, tons of reviews coming, and we have the Denver Death Fest, which there is going to be a link down below for prospective bands that want to get in on that. All you have to do is fill out this little form thing, and I guess people will go over it. I don't know all the deals in it. Like, this is mostly Miller and John that are doing this, so they know the ins and outs. I'm just kind of focusing on, like, running the day-to-day stuff. Like, that's more my thing. I know nothing about show promoting, so I'm not going to hinder the progress, which that would probably be what I would do. But I am going to encourage any bands watching this to check out that fucking link down below. So, of course, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also are on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link down below. We are going to start doing some more content on there after MDF. We're pretty sure it's going to be fun, and it's definitely going to get our patrons to participate and have at us in a way. Additionally, there is also a link down there to thrallsofmetal.com. If you would like to get one of our killer shirts, that is the place to order them. Thank you guys so much. It's been so much fun doing this. I got to get back to listening to a whole bunch of music, but I look forward to catching up on all this so I can actually go over some more new stuff in a collection update, because a lot of this stuff is a little bit older. But yeah, back to the awkward thank you part. Again, you all fucking rule. You guys keep us fucking driven, and we look forward to creating more ridiculous metal content for you guys. So with that, I thank you all once again, and we will catch you later.